Hello and welcome to the WhiteSky core functions video, and this one is focusing on the grid functionality, which is a consistent experience throughout the entire application. We spent a lot of time in ensuring the user functionality throughout the application is as easy and as intuitive as possible. And a big area of most applications is the ability for users to sort, group, filter, and delve and work with the data that they actually have on hand. So to take you through the grid functionality, what we have here is our missions within our Apollo training material. So this is just a list of all of the Apollo missions, various information, serial number, vehicle, whether or not it was manned, etc., the date, and so on. And you can see that as we scroll across the columns for the grids here. Now, a lot of applications, if you take any generic package such as CRM or other types of software applications, they put a lot of effort into making the main screen that you get sortable, filterable, allow you to get to the certain kind of data that you want to look at. However, as soon as you step away from that screen, as soon as you start looking at a list of contacts for a company or the employees of the company and things like that, then you end up no longer having all the functionality they gave you on the main search screen. You're restricted to just being able to export it or just being able to sort it or something like that, rather than all of the functionality you had at the beginning. What we've done with WhiteSky Studio is we've put all the functionality you could possibly want into this grid here. And we've made sure that that functionality is available everywhere throughout the entire application, thus enabling you to actually work with the data you have on hand. So to take you through that functionality, the first thing you'll notice is if we scroll down, the amount of items have been limited to 25 in the grid, and we tab all of the other results. So if you have thousands of companies and so on, it'll download 25. It'll work as fast as you're seeing it here, and it'll page all the rest of the items. And that's obviously one of the reasons that WhiteSky Studio can run on a mobile phone chip. It doesn't require a heavy wireless access connection or anything. So with all the data paged, the next thing you'll notice is that we can sort all of the grids, all of the columns. And you'll notice every time I click or any time I do grouping or filtering or anything, that when I do that, it spins just for a second up here. So if we sort the names in reverse order, you'll see that as it spins, it only does that for a second because it goes off to the server and it says, give me all 10,000 companies or whatever they are, sort them in reverse order and download the first 25 that match that. And it's an important point because a lot of old legacy systems, whenever they do sorting and grouping, they just do it on the data you have here in the grid rather than actually go off and apply that query to all of your data on the server. So we can sort every single column. We can also group every single column. So you can see I can drag it in here and say I want to group by launch vehicle. And again, you'll see that spinning. And then we can open up by launch vehicle and say we might want to do a further grouping by saying we want to group by launch vehicle and then by completed. And again, you see that spin as we can drill down into that data. So we can sort all the data in the grids. We can also group all of the data in the grids. You'll also notice that we can filter on every single column. You'll see there's a filter icon. And that's so that we can filter all of the data in the system as well. So we can say we'd like to only have the missions where they start with Apollo or they start with SA or they end with certain characters or they contain certain characters and they're of this type of launch vehicle or the serial number contains these codes or they're manned missions. So we can sort, we can group, we can filter. We can also do hierarchical queries as well. So we can say where the manned mission is XYZ, where I was a manager for that mission, or where it didn't complete, and put all the types of hierarchical kind of queries we like into the system. We can save them as predefined queries, and then users can just select any of those queries with one click. So they can sort, they can group, they can filter, they can query the data. You can also search across all of the data as well. And it's not just searching the mission name, it's searching every single column that you have in the system to see if it finds any match. So again, we can sort, group, filter, query, search. We can also, everywhere in the application, and it's not just restricted to grids, you can always export the data to Excel. So even on charts, you can export it to Excel to verify the data that's building up those graphical charts. But we can export any grid to Excel. And when we export it to Excel, it exports it into a named ranges. So you can then create another tab, do pivot table analysis, do any kind of report on those named ranges, re-upload it back into the system as a template, and then in one click, users can export their data into the predefined templates. Likewise, we can export all of the data into Word as well. And of course, when it's in Word, it's mail merge, and you can again have predefined templates for those mail merges. Lastly, everything is always live, so it needn't be the case that we can go in and have to open up this mission to edit the data or anything like that. We can change the serial numbers from here and just say the serial number is 1056, change it to say this was a manned mission, and we can update all of the data here just like we would in Excel and use the data here from this perspective. If we refresh that, because we don't actually want to commit those changes. But better than all, so you can see with this actual grid, we've provided all the functionality that you would need to be able to sort, group, filter, and delve down and work with the data that you have on the screen. But better than that, we've made that functionality consistent throughout the entire application. So if we actually open up this Apollo mission, we can click on the Crew tab here, and we're back to exactly the same grid again. Yeah, different columns, obviously, because now we're looking at the actual astronauts. But we've got all the same functionality. We can sort, we can group, we can filter, we can query, we can search across all of these. We can get it down to just the set of astronauts that we actually care about. And then we can go into export to Word and select a predefined event invitation or something that we've already set up as a template. And this functionality being consistent everywhere in the application ensures that users can actually work with the data that they have. It removes those 80% of annoyances you have with existing applications because systems don't let you work with the data. You have to have custom reports written, or you have to do you have to open up the items or go to the different areas of the system. This functionality allows users to actually work with the data they have on the screen wherever they are in the application. And that gives you a rough kind of idea of the functionality we've provided in the grids everywhere within the application. When you go onto the other training material, you'll see the key things that WhiteSky Studio does for you is it will actually create all these grids for you from the objects and designs that you make within the system. Thank you.